family, community engagement, and school success. So glad you're here. Looks like we have some other parents join us, but I am a great steward of parents' time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Ms. Madison is going to come up and introduce our speakers, and then we will be in the hands of our presenters. We do have place for students across, so if you have students that come in and you want them to be in an activity, we are offering that tonight, okay?
Hello, my name is Madison Wallace. I'm Secretary to the State of Washington over there for Community Engagement. Hello, everybody. I'm here to just introduce our two speakers. First, we have Candace Diesler, who is the Director of Health and Wellness. We also have Ms. Kyra Nolan, who is the Director of Student Services. So I'm very happy to present them. Thank you so much for coming, guys.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I am Candace Diesler, Director of Health and Wellness for Fort Wayne Community Schools. I usually like to start off any kind of presentation by introducing myself, but telling you a little bit about who I am and my experiences. So I've been with the district now for 14 years, and I have been in various schools as a school nurse throughout the years of my journey here with the district. William High School, Scott Academy, Snyder, Haley Elementary, Arlington, Bunch Montessori, Ward when we had Ward. So many experiences across the district and campus as well. And then for 8 years, I was the nurse coordinator for the district, and now in the role as the director. And I just love what we do for kids. I love what the school nurses do for our community and our support for our school buildings. And my hope here today is that we can go over a little bit of what 504s are, and individualized health plans are, and what they do to help support our kids while they're in school. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Kyra.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kyra Nolan. I'm the Director of Student Services here for Fort Wayne Community Schools. I actually oversee attendance for the district and our school choice lottery. So I am a familiar face to some of you who have gone through the lottery. I did hear Weiser Park and Bunch in the back. So kudos to you all. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And Candace and myself, along with two other individuals, have the pleasure of being the district 504 coordinator. So we're hoping to share some good information with you all tonight to get you a little bit more acclimated to the 504 process, but then also understanding that 504s and individual health plans are for special and unique circumstances. And so hopefully our goal is, after tonight's presentation, that you have a little bit more information to be knowledgeable as a parent, and then assess the situation to determine if your student does in fact need certain accommodations in order for them to do well in the classroom. Okay? All right. Right, so a 504, if you do not know, it's a written personalized plan. So it's a plan that you would put together with you, the team at the school, and you all would talk as to what you think your child is struggling with, things in which that they may need, and different accommodations that could be provided for your student individually in order for them to do well and achieve academic success. Okay? So it's important to know that those accommodations, sometimes they are in reference to a disability. Like an example, if a student were to break their arm or break their leg, if they have something that happens sporadically that happens. Another common reasoning is like for ADHD. If you've had your student tested for that, and the physician or the person who you're working with says that they believe that your student does have ADHD and that they think they need appropriate accommodations. Like an example would be like a fidget. Sometimes students need those, and they need, with the first disabilities that I referenced, that they need to use like an elevator, or they need to use a ramp, or they need to leave the classroom earlier than their peers. Those are the type of accommodations that we're talking about in regards to a 504. So we have this video because we want to make sure that it's clear, because
there's a few different things. So you have a 504, which provides accommodations, but then you also have an IEP, which is generated normally through our special education process. And so there is a difference between 504s and IEPs. And so we have a short video that will speak to that. So we're going to go ahead and play that now.
The IEP, or Individualized Education Program, is essentially a personalized educational path for students with specific disabilities. Its goals? On the other hand, a 504 plan is all about equal access. Think of it as making sure every student, regardless of disability, gets a fair shot at education. Well, the IEP is comprehensive. It doesn't just include specialized instruction, but also offers related services like speech therapy and even accommodations like extra time on tests. The 504 plan, though, focuses on accommodations and modifications. So, while an IEP might involve one-on-one math tutoring sessions, a 504 plan would more likely rearrange seating so that a student with ADHD, for example, can focus better. Individualized education.
Everybody good? Right? Right. Oh, wait. Okay, I just want to make sure we're good so far. Thank you. The next is understanding that the Section 504 actually levels the playing field. So it provides equal opportunities for all students, because the ultimate goal of Fort Wayne Community Schools is to make sure that all students achieve high academic standards. So if there's different accommodations that need to be provided in order for your student
If you were to say you would think that a student needs a 504 and the team collectively says that it may be beneficial for the student to actually have an SST, that's okay as well. And then you can ask them to explain the differences on the accommodations that would be provided within an SST or the accommodations that would be provided within a 504. Typically, they are both the same and it can achieve the same goal. But like I said, you would be working with a team of individuals and being the voice for your student in order to do that. Once you do make that request, the school would have 30 days to acknowledge your request and then hold that meeting. So I just want you to know that if you do, it's not tomorrow, 48 hours, 72, they actually do have 30 days. And most schools are very diligent with getting those meetings scheduled as soon as possible and then making sure that all the appropriate people that you would like to have on your team are present. And so if you have even folks from the outside that you think would be beneficial to be a part of your team, they are more than welcome to attend as well. And so this video here is actually a parent who has a student who has a 504, and this is her experience.
I would love to tell you about my son Troy. Troy was born with spina bifida. Spina bifida is a birth defect that can affect learning and also has medical and physical conditions. Many people born with spina bifida use wheelchairs, crutches, and some use leg braces. Troy wears leg braces but still has difficulty when walking. While he was in elementary school, Troy got around pretty well, but as he started middle school, walking from classroom to classroom became a great obstacle. He needed help getting through the busy, crowded halls. The IEP team and the 504 team, including me, brainstormed ideas to help him. We wanted him to be as independent as possible. One of the 504 accommodations the team came up with was perfect. Troy would be excused 5 minutes early from each class. This worked so he would get a head start to his next class without being bumped into by others. He was also excused 5 minutes early to get his lunch. But thanks to a wonderful teacher's idea, much more happened with this accommodation. The teacher said no one likes to get lunch alone, so he had Troy choose someone from class to leave early with him. This was interesting when thinking about middle school age students. Students wanting to be chosen offered him gum and pencils the first week or so, but Troy did a great job choosing different kids each day. But the great thing that happened because of this accommodation were the friendships that grew out of this experience. Another 504 accommodation that really benefited Troy was having a set of textbooks that stayed at home. It was very difficult, really impossible, for Troy to carry the heavy backpack full of books home each night. The 504 team, using Mom's idea, decided Troy could leave all his textbooks at home and each teacher would have a book in his classroom for Troy to use. Each day, he just went into each classroom, picked up his textbook off the shelf, and used it during the class period. And as the class ended, he would return that book to the shelf. Troy is now 23 years old. These accommodations made it possible for him to be as independent as possible, but also to access his education successfully.
Okay, so again, referencing back to that 504 team. So at each school, there is a 504 coordinator. And that can be different. For elementary schools, it's normally the assistant principal. For middle schools, it may be the school counselor. And then for high schools, it may be a counselor as well. But it's left to the school's discretion to determine who is actually their 504 coordinator. So it may be different. So I don't want to walk out of here and say, well, she said it was the AEP or principal. The school actually gets to determine who their coordinator is. And then on the team can be another administrator. It can also be a teacher. Actually, it normally is a teacher involved because they would be able to speak to your students' day-to-day abilities. And then the school's case managers. Some schools have a case manager and some schools have an administrative assistant. And either or personnel would be appropriate to be a part of the team as well. And then also the school guidance counselor. There's a guidance counselor in the majority of our schools. We even have school therapists. If you think that they should be a part of your team, that would be okay as well. And then of course we have our school nurses. If there's anything medically going on that they'd like to be a part of that team as well, they are more welcome to do so. And then again, if you have outside folks that you're working with, whether it be a counselor or a therapist that's providing a service for your student, they're more than able to be a part of that team as well. And so what the team is going to do is they're going to look at what the impact has on that student's education. So they're going to look at their grades. They're going to make sure that they have accessible services to the classroom. So like the middle school parent who just spoke, because it was cumbersome for that student to have a backpack because of the weight of it all, being able to have a textbook at home, but then also having a textbook in that classroom. Those are some of the things to make sure that that student can still do well in the classroom just as well as his other peers are doing, okay? So they'll look at if that student is under stress, do they have anxiety, are they depressed, as a result. Like those are some of the things to consider as well that would cause those difficulties in academic performance. their self-esteem. They may feel like, they're not achieving as well as their peers. They may feel like, their grades are bad because they can't really hear, or sometimes they can't even really see. I know a lot of students sometimes are in classrooms where they sit in the middle or the back of the class, and because they have some vision impairments, sometimes kids aren't comfortable with vocalizing, what is going on, or if they can't hear, that might be something that they're afraid to tell, of course their parent, but even an adult to say, hey, I'm having difficulties with hearing. So those type of things we want to make sure, like I say, the classroom environment is conducive to learning for all students. And so if they have struggles, we want to make sure that that's talked about, and then especially their social or personal interactions, and then forbidding that students would have any behavior concerns as a result of their disability and accommodation. That's why I referenced those fidgets earlier, because I know a lot of students need to have those fidgets in the classroom in order to be able to stay calm and stay on track. Okay?
Sorry about that. So other things that we're going to also look into, we really want to know if they are getting the same opportunity as their peers, right? We want all individual students to have the same access to the classroom and to extracurriculars that their peers do. And so not only are we looking at how that impacts their day, but we want to make sure that we want to ask the question, does it substantially limit that access? Does it substantially limit their environment? So some of you may have heard of what is called an IHP, or an Individualized Health Plan. This is something that only a nurse can write. And it does involve a lot of times physician orders and a specific medical diagnosis. An example that this slide provides is really good, and something that we see across the district are diabetes diagnosis, where the nurse will have physician's orders that she works with to write an individualized health plan. And it involves instructions surrounding medication administration, a carb diet, how many carbs that they can eat during the day, and how much insulin is needed to cover that. Those types of things would go on an individualized health plan. Things that would go alongside the individualized health plan in a 5, things like access to the clinic, extra restroom breaks because maybe they have a high that day in their blood sugar and they're needing to increase their water intake. So they would need an extra access to that restroom. So those are types of things that differentiate between an IHP and a 504 to keep in mind. IEPs help specifically with learning needs. So things that you're going to think about when you're determining whether you need a 504 and an IEP, like the slide Kyra talked about, is 504s deal with increase in accommodations. IEPs really are more concentrated on their learning needs in the classroom. So you're talking about maybe a multiplication table when they're test taking. Those types of things are what would be written in an IEP rather than a 504. Child find laws, really basically what that means in layman's terms is anyone can request a 504. If you feel like your student is in need of help and increasing their accommodations so they have equal access to the classroom, you can request a 504. A teacher can request a 504, as well as a nurse. If a nurse feels that a child would need a 504 to increase their access to the classroom, they can also request that service. Important things to remember about a 504. A disability alone does not necessarily mean that they will qualify for a 504. Remember, that team will meet and they will go over all of the things that your student may be struggling with and how we can support them in school. It's not intended to better their test scores. It's intended to increase their access so they have equal access to the classroom. Physicians may write a doctor's order for a 504. Please keep in mind that we will look at that and we will always consider a doctor's order, but it is not a requirement to have a 504, and it does not give determination on the team's decision on whether a child would be eligible for that. Kyra and I wanted to make sure that you guys had our contact information. That way, if you have questions after this evening, you can have our contact information to be able to reach out to us individually if you'd like to discuss questions, concerns that you may have. If you feel like your child needs a 504, please reach out to your building and ask who your coordinator is in your building. And start there, or you could also start with your teacher. You could speak with your child's teacher to determine how they're doing in the classroom and that follow-up. And any questions that you have this evening, we're happy to answer as well. So I think what we'll do now is we will kind of open the floor for you guys to ask questions. So we can kind of help guide you in any way that you feel you need tonight. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, contacting your child's teacher directly is sufficient to get things started, or does there need to be a written request?
Written requests are great, but you asking your coordinator in your building is sufficient enough. Yes. What other questions do you have? Oh, you don't.
I don't know if my situation might be a little different, so I don't know if the opportunity will be given to where we can meet kind of one-on-one instead of just broad. Because mine is a little more detailed. My daughter is in high school. She has had a 504 in place since she was in the 3rd grade. She was diagnosed with migraines, POTS, and kind of a slew of other things. But solely, she had this 504 in place because of those 2 diagnoses. She did test for an IEP back in 2nd grade. I worked very, very closely with Ms. Grimm. Over the years, she's been a great advocate. That's for those that don't know, the school psychologist. So she has been in place to help me develop the accommodations, both kind of the physical accommodations in regards to like a salty snack, stuff like that she needs for migraines and all of the things. And we do all of the things at home, but she does have learning accommodations that have been in place for years, solely based on from the medical professionals, and then just how it relates to her learning, because she did get tested and we were able to kind of see how she learns. I'm going to try and fast forward because I do think it probably is more appropriate kind of one-on-one. But my biggest question is, and I kind of listed that because now that we're in high school, those have been challenged, the learning accommodations. And it's been really frustrating as a parent, especially because what it seems to me is the nurse in place. Sorry. No, you're fine.
It's just people online on the Zoom, and they want to hear you. They want to know, like they did the conversation. So, thank you.
There's also a question on the Zoom. Maybe. So I'll just ask the question and then. So my biggest question is, it seems like kind of depending on maybe who's in place, something had changed, right? And so it's been hard as a parent because the accommodations that have successfully helped my daughter throughout her learning career, and I can go as well as like comprehension, because migraines neurologically have an impact on her comprehension, her retell, her memory, and it has
it's proven, in all honesty. And so all of a sudden that's being challenged. But my question is, how does it get determined when a medical diagnosis or disability impacts your learning? So who is in place, honestly, to tell me or my daughter or that what impacts her or what doesn't? Does that make sense?
Yes. No, there are many questions that you had
that were really good. I do have a question. Is your daughter's IEP still in place?
She did not qualify for an IEP. She tested when she was in 2nd grade, and she did not qualify for IEP services, so that's why the 504 was then put in place, because it is very much medically triggered, right?
Right.
We have realized and understood that the reason her learning has been kind of impaired is due to some of the neurological impacts that migraines have had. And again, it's just simple accommodations like a little extra time, preferential seating. She has, again, the other rights where she can get access to the clinic and all of those things. So
it's very simple things that really every student can probably benefit from, right? So her accommodations are nothing crazy. They're just maybe having speech to text and the directions read aloud. They have changed over the years from elementary to high school. Obviously, you don't need manipulatives. I could give examples, but so I'm just curious, like, where does that get determined in regards to those accommodations and whether those are still valid or you get my point.
Have you requested a 504 meeting?
So, yes, and I'm going to.
So you and I need to talk after this, it sounds like. Okay.
That's kind of why I came. So I said it may not relate. I just had to come because this was kind of an opportunity, really. So yes, absolutely.
Right.
We do all the meetings. I've done them in elementary, I've done them in middle school, and I just had my meeting in high school because high school, and that's where things have dramatically shifted and been challenged, and it's a little frustrating.
So I think it's important that you and I get together after so I can answer those one-on-one. I do want to bring this example up though. This is an example of where a student can have an IHP and a 504. So you can have both of those when there is a medical diagnosis. And remember that a team will meet to determine eligibility. Does that make sense?
In regards to the timelines that she mentioned, she said her student had transitioned from elementary to middle and then to high school. So it's always appropriate in those transition years when the student is transitioning from elementary to middle school that we hold another 504 conference with the new school, making sure that they're abreast of those accommodations that were in place so that we can continue them on in middle school. And then again at the high school transition, we want to make sure that we have another review meeting because there are timelines and when a 504 needs to be reviewed and how often.
And the schools have been great. I mean, in regards to we have those regularly. I think a little bit of a change of maybe an opinion and that's kind of where I'm asking in regards to like those accommodations because one person can say, I don't really think so, when there's a slew of other people that are saying, no, actually those are. So I'm just curious in regards to like, just those learning accommodations, like who decides what that looks like and who eliminates them or creates them, right?
Those are great questions.
I want to talk to you more about that. But it should be a team of people that get together, and then once that eligibility is determined, they should have a meeting with you. There's another question online. They ask, any accommodations for middle school child with PTSD and anxiety? So that is another situation that you could bring up to your 504 coordinator, and then what they would need to do is meet with their team to discuss what type of accommodations that child may need to access the classroom. And it's individualized, so it's different for every student.
So what if we recently had a loss in the family and was suffering from depression and stuff like that? Would a 504 would still be in place?
It would just depend on, the team would have to meet and they would have to determine eligibility. But we do have school support. So if there has been a loss in the family, it is important that you would reach out to your school counselor so they can get you access to those school supports that are in the building.
Yep, we have different contracts with counseling agencies that would actually come into the building, or we would schedule them for you to go see them as well.
So if you have a medical requirement to eat like every 2 hours due to like metabolism reasons, would that be a 504 or an IHP?
That's a great question. I really like that there are students here. So you could actually put those accommodations in both plans.
Oh, okay, so it could work either way.
Either way, yes.
All right.
Well, if you're like homeschooled,
If you're homeschooled,
Like the virtual academy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, if it's through Virtual Academy, you could still request for a 504.
Okay.
I think,
Just let Mr. Locks know.
did you want to ask a question?
Okay. All right.
That raises a good question for me. If the students are old enough, are they part of the team?
You can request for your student to be in on the meetings. I think, honestly, that's important.
I do want to add, let me forward. So one of the things for a student to be on the team, though, it has to be at the request from the parent. So just so you know, particularly for a student who is underage, a student could not request that I want to be in the group by myself alone. That would be the request of the parent.
I don't want to turn my back. Any questions over here? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if it was just an oversight or a small detail I picked up. On the 504 team, the slide you had that said the team includes, I noticed that parents were not listed on that team. I know that in the IEP meeting, the parents are considered an equal partner on that team. But what is the parents' role in the 504 team?
No, parents are absolutely a part of that. We were just, because we were presenting to parents, we wanted to just let you know who all was a part of the school 504 team, but parents are definitely a part of the team.
I was told the first time I requested a 504 that parents were not necessary for 504s, but they were for IEPs. Is that accurate?
So that wording to me would confuse me. What I would say to that is you're a necessary part of the team planning and the team 504. You wouldn't necessarily be a part of the decision making on whether they are eligible or not. Does that help make sense? So the team meets and the 504 coordinator would obviously meet with you and they would speak with you, and then the team would meet and they would review the things we listed today and determine eligibility, and then they would meet with you again. And then when they're writing the 504, you would be a part of that. You would definitely be a part of that. Does that help answer your question? There's a lot of processes to it.
Yeah. So on the flip side, for determining IEP eligibility, is that the same case? Parents can't be part of the eligibility determination?
For an IEP?
Yeah.
So if you request an IEP or special ed services, the child will have to go under an evaluation, and then the evaluation will help determine their eligibility.
I have a couple, but if there's something physical that's part of the accommodation, like you mentioned physics or fidgets or a ramp, does the parent provide those? Who bears the cost of that? How does that work?
So the fidgets that I've seen, the parents have actually provided them because there's different fidgets, right? So different fidgets are what for different students. So they don't have a generalized one. I have seen though some of the school therapists, they do have a resource bin that has those as well. So if there was a financial concern, you could reach out to the therapist and they may have some that you could use.
So it just depends on the accommodation,
Yes,
whether
ma'am.
the school does or. Okay. My other question is, I'm friends with some teachers and principals, including people that aren't in Fort Wayne Community Schools, so I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I've heard that 504s can be really overwhelming for teachers. because there are so many students who are looking for the individualized support. So I guess I'm wondering, how does the district support those classroom teachers to make sure that they're equipped or well-equipped enough to offer all those needed accommodations?
I would assume that the building principal would provide the necessary supports for that teacher in order to be able to handle classroom management and then attend to the students' accommodations.
I just want to add to that really quick, sorry. I didn't plan to talk. But the other piece of that, some of our schools do have teaching assistants as well. So based on the need for that classroom, they will determine if they needed to use teaching assistants, also our therapeutic counselors that are in the building as well.
My question was, does the team or anyone on the team have a medical background? And if so, will they override a medical recommendation?
That is a great question. So if the child that's being recommended for a 504 has a medical condition, and that is why the 504 is being recommended, the nurse should be a part of that team and helping to make that decision. But again, if a physician would write an order recommending a 504, that doesn't necessarily determine eligibility for a 504. I will say on the back end of that, that an individualized health plan can include accommodations, and we can list accommodations without necessarily needing a 504. The beauty of this, I guess to say, is all students are individual, and they all need individualized care. And I don't think there's one answer is best for all. Does that make sense? But the nurse in your building should definitely be a part of that discussion, because she really is the medical expert.
And the nurses within the health services department, because Candace oversees the nurses, they do a phenomenal job of working with the physicians and dialoguing back and forth to determine how the school can best support the student.
Does that help?
Yes.
Do you want to talk to me after?
Sure.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Any questions on Zoom, Ms. Lord? Okay. Okay. Well, we thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you to Ms. Washington for doing a phenomenal job, and she'll have some closing remarks for you all as well.
I'm hoping our QR code comes up. Thank you guys. Thank you. All right, you guys are great. Let's give the two presenters a hand. Tyra. I don't want to say your name again because I'm going to mess it up and I don't want to. Candace, thank you. I was trying to say the last name. Ms. Kyra and Ms. Candace for the work that they do with 504 and all of the accommodations. Think about it. They don't just do school, one school, two schools. They do the entire district. And Shanita, just give us a ballpark number of our district total. 52,000. Oh, no. 52 students. Okay. 29,000, 52 buildings, thank you. But just think the number of the magnitude of what they have to do. And so we honor you tonight. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. Seriously, giving us that information. Also, I want to say thank you to our interpreters tonight. Super excited to see families come, yes. I do not like bringing parents and families in a room and they cannot understand. And so we want to ensure here at Fort Wayne Community Schools that we offer you guys space to be understood and for us to understand you. So thank you guys again for coming. And to all of our parents, we honor you, we thank you for showing up. So we do have a QR code that I'm praying comes up on the screen for a survey. We want to know what your thoughts were about tonight. Please be honest with us. If you could take time and do that. And you can scan with your phone. Yes, ma'am. They're controlling it from the back. They got me. Take now. I'm hope. You gotta look. Did we not get it?
That's a separate system than that.
Okay.
Email it to us.
Wait a minute, Madison.
Give us a couple seconds here to figure it out. Ms. Laura, you want to shoot Candace an email? I'm working on it. All right.
And if not,
I think we have everybody's email. The other question I was gonna ask, a parent asked me if they could get a copy of the PowerPoint, and I didn't know. Do you guys get that?
We can print it off.
Okay. Yes? Okay.
Candace, I just sent you that that QR code.
Okay, perfect. I can ask another question.
Yes, you can. Go for it, Beth.
What should a parent bring to a 504 meeting?
So her question was, for those online, what should a parent bring to a 504 meeting? That's a good question.
So if your student is under a physician's care, we would like to have that. If they're seeing a therapist, we'd like to have that. If they're seeing any other services like outside yes, like something that you would have to show that they've met with someone and that they've made a recommendation that supports also your recommendation as a parent. But you can never have enough. So whatever you have, we would love to have it. And it just helps the team to be that much more informed and then understand the whole child.
And Beth, I tell parents all the time, create a packet. Like, you are your child's first teacher and advocate. So create a folder as you're meeting. I used to tell parents yearly, don't throw it away, get a box, the computer print box, and every year, so that as you go and you climb, this mom, she had critical information for us today. She said, this is what I've done over the last 3 years. This is how it worked. This is how it didn't work. So she's able to pull from her Rolodex, and that's critical when you're doing, because this is a tracking process for you. And so the way to be empowered, to come to the table and really be knowledgeable about your child, which doesn't mean you're against the team, the school, that means you can have a great conversation. You have a voice at the table, but you have to use it in a way that's informative, appropriate, right? All of those things, and then you don't have to get angry and upset like some parents do when they don't have the understanding. You have the toolbox.
Is it okay if we don't know what the right accommodation is?
Absolutely.
Oh yes,
okay.
because we actually have embedded within our system a list of accommodations. So you could even look through them to say, okay, this would be appropriate, let's try this, what about that? Oh, try this, that didn't work, so now let's try that. I will say when you do come to those meetings, bring a copy for yourself, but then also bring a copy for the team members, and the school will be happy to make copies, additional copies, so you would have to pay that cost.
Yeah, that's a good one too, because then you're a part of the equation. Yes. So it looks like we have our Trailblazer survey. If you could scan the QR code up there, and it's like 3 or 4 questions. We would love to know how this was able to serve you well tonight.
Yes, please do so.
And those of you that have questions and would like to speak with Kyra or I at the end of this, I will be up here in front of the room and kind of do a line maybe, and first come, first serve, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
And we do plan to share this PowerPoint with the schools, so it is appropriate if you do reach out to your schools to say that you attended tonight's events, and then they would have that to be able to refer to. Okay?
And we do have the survey in all 3 languages, so if yours is not accommodated, let us know. Tried to make sure we did it in all of them. All right, well, you guys are free to dismiss. Thank you so much again for coming out. If you'd like to see Miss Kyra or Miss
Absolutely. Right in front of you.
I was trying to get into it.
Okay.
What school? They didn't get to